YouTube? How you feeling? How you living? What's good? It's your girl Francine. Today is Saturday, which means to say last Saturday when we say what we need to say and get it all out. So today, first thing I want to do is apologize for yesterday. Not only was that video like super short, but like I may have been dead, and have come back to life. Like I was so emotionally drained yesterday. I've been emotionally drained for like the last week, and yeah, I'm better now though. But today we're talking about a topic that I think is very important and related to what we talked about yesterday, and what I've talked about, multiple subjects I talked about on this channel, and that is why we don't learn certain things in history. Now, I have talked about 3 things on this channel that I never knew about until I did my own personal research, or until someone has told me about it, or like I had to do it for school. So I talked about the Tuskegee syphilis study. If you did not see the video, I'll link it down below and I'll link it up here. And I never knew about that until I did my own personal research on it for school and college. But I think that's a very important part of American history because it shows that people were being experimented on. I feel like that's something we should definitely know about and, take some time to talk about, because that's crazy to think about, that people were literally being experimented on without their consent. Like, this should be taught in history, to talk about medical studies and how medical studies have changed over time. But no, I never knew about it, so I decided to do a paper for it in college. Like I said, Stonewall riots, never heard of it until it was on television. Saw someone talking about it on a TV show, and I looked into it myself. And then Juneteenth, I had no idea until word of mouth. When I moved to New Orleans, when I went to law school, I had no idea what the heck Juneteenth was until someone told me about it. And all of these situations, all of these things are very important in American history. I mean, you look, like I said, Tuskegee syphilis study, the fact that people were getting experimented on without their consent is a huge deal. Juneteenth, the fact that there were some people in slavery 2.5 years after it was legally abolished, like that is a big deal. And Stonewall is a very big deal in LGBTQ history, and how they kind of advanced in getting, the pride parades, where that came from and things like that. So I think, and there's multiple things that have been suppressed in history, like I believe the Tulsa massacre, if you've never heard of Black Wall Street and what happened there. And there was this whole controversy about Donald Trump having his rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, where this happens. This is why we need to learn about this in schools, because most people would know that that was a big deal if you didn't know what happened in Tulsa and you didn't know what Juneteenth was. And like things like that is kind of what I'm talking about. Or you can look at the fact that there's been multiple stories all over the news where they talk about the fact that slaves were bought here. They weren't stolen or, captive. They were bought here. And, they just found them and they're like, oh yeah, we'll bring you to America so you can work for free and we can beat you and, separate you from your children and torture you and rape and molest you. Yeah, that's fine. We're just bringing you here, as if they came voluntarily. Or there's plenty of things in history that we don't learn about. And one thing I said yesterday in my being lethargic is that, when you get to create history, you get to create the history books, you don't paint yourself out to be the villain. You just don't. At the end of the day, people who are being oppressed don't get to write the history books, and therefore their stories don't get as much shine in these books, or they don't get the proper telling in these books. And then, lo and behold, we don't know our own history. The syphilis study is my history. That is Black people being used as experiments. That's something that I feel like I should know about the history of my people here. Or Juneteenth, the fact that I had no idea that Black people were still slaves. Or the fact that Black Wall Street, that there was actually a thriving city of Black people that got burned down by white people because they were essentially just jealous that they were doing well. It's very interesting to see that we don't talk about that. And I posted something about Black Wall Street, the anniversary of the day that it happened, and I follow one of my old teachers on Facebook, and she was like, yeah, I tried to teach that in school, and they wouldn't let me. Why? So why is that a taboo subject to talk about? It's a very prominent part of history. See, we learn about like the Civil War, and we don't really learn everything about the Civil War, let's be honest. I mean, we learned that, the Confederacy laws, and, we learn about that in history, or we learn about the Revolutionary War and how we fought against Britain. Yeah, we got our independence. And it's like, was everybody independent at this time? No. So why are we teaching it as if everybody was independent? Like we all gained our independence at the same time. That's not true. So why is this a collective? Okay. Or you may learn, a lot of people said they never really learned about the suffragettes and learning about, women's history even. Like you get your basic Susan B. Anthony lesson like once or twice a year, and like you don't really know much about women's history and how they were being treated at that time. Like you don't learn about the fact that women's history and women's rights and the activism there was inspired by a civil rights movement. You don't learn that in school because they don't want you to learn that. Now it's been proven to me. I already had that conspiracy theory in my head, but it's been proven they don't want you to learn about that. And I gotta question why, and it's a very obvious why, right? Like I said, if you get to create history, you get to create the narrative you want. And when it looks like, yeah, independence, and yeah, we beat the Confederacy, and we freed the slaves eventually. Look, and it's like, actually, no, that actually didn't free the slaves. It took for people to actually come down there and say it to them for them to actually be free. And then even then, there was laws about separate but equal, and you don't really learn what separate but equal was. You learn a Jim Crow, and you kind of learn the basics about, the colored versus whites, and, all that. But you don't learn about lynchings, and you don't learn about how the KKK led to the police force. You don't learn about stuff like that. And so you don't learn the real story. You learn like the basics. Like, yeah, there was a period of time where there was separation. But, we ended segregation. And it's like, actually, no, you only ended segregation by law. There's not very many laws on the books that says that people can't just discriminate without it being by law or without it kind of having a reason to. Like, if you read anything about education and desegregating education, like in law school, when you read the stories about, de jure versus, damn, I look real stupid that I don't remember what the name of it. I know de jure is by law, but the difference between a by law and by, just act situation. And I gotta tag it here what I'm talking about because I don't want to look stupid. I know what I'm talking about. I swear I have a law degree. Anyway, when you learn the difference and you learn that like technically they can discriminate against people, but not really, but kind of, sort of, but like. And I saw a very interesting article that said that, we have plenty of non-discrimination laws on the books, but we still have at-will employment. So you could still be fired for your race or for, they just passed that you can't be fired because of a hairstyle in certain states. Or, they just passed that you can't be fired for being an LGBTQ member, but you still can be fired at will. So they can say it's not because of your race or your gender or how you identify, but kind of is. And like I said, like we don't learn about the difference between that. Like, I mean, in general, history has been consistently washed throughout time to make it seem like, people just came to America. And don't even get me started on Native Americans, because I can't believe they haven't like done something to, because like the history of Native Americans and Native Americans after, people started coming in and discovering America, America, and once they started kind of wanting to make their own land, and the rape, pillaging, and killing of millions of people. And now Native Americans have gone from being the populace of the United States, not the United States, of the area that is now called America, to only being like 2% of the population. Like, that to me, and just learning, like, you know, you think, oh yeah, they're on the reservations and, you know, they probably get treated well. No, they don't. Like, when I learned, and I didn't learn this until law school, about how Native American schools treat their kids that are in the school, because they're not taught by Native American teachers. They're taught by white teachers who don't really understand or quite like Native American people. And we don't learn about how it even got to that point. How do you have a whole country that is populated by a you know, certain nations, but of indigenous people, and then they all disappear? That's what it kind of looks like in the history books. So like they all disappeared. Christopher Columbus came here, which is not even true. And, you know, all this stuff happened, and now we have America, and we bought over African people here, and, you know, let them work our land, and then eventually we let them go. We set them free, but, you know, we didn't keep them equal. I mean, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, that was kind of the time. It was the time. But then, you know, we said, you know, we got the Civil Rights Act and we made everybody equal. And then it's like, actually, no, that didn't even make everybody equal. So, but I just wanted to talk about this because I think it's a very interesting conversation to have. I am, again, a huge nerd, so I like talking to people about, like, topics like this, where it's like you got to think, and it doesn't take very much thinking to realize why, but to kind of come to the conclusion that there's certain things that are getting oppressed and we know why, and it's upsetting, and to talk about those things with people so that you can spread that knowledge. Like, I mean, certain things don't get told. Like I said, the syphilis study in Juneteenth, and I'm happy that a lot of people know what Juneteenth is now. Everybody was talking about it. I mean, there's the idea that, oh, now you want to talk about it. Yeah, that's a good thing. Like, why don't we want people to know about history, especially when it's history that has been erased over time? So it's a good thing that everybody knows what Juneteenth is now. And I think, you know, like I said, Stonewall and Black Wall Street and the histories of Native American people, if you've never looked it up, do that, okay? It is extremely shocking and upsetting, but it is very important to know. And all types of people whose stories haven't been told. I mean, I didn't learn about Japanese people being in internment camps until I went to law school. How is that possible? Yeah, there was a whole time during World War II where Japanese people were in internment camps in America. People who are Americans were in internment camps. I had no idea that happened. How does that happen? How? Like, you learn about Pearl Harbor, but you don't learn about the very upsetting things that happened following Pearl Harbor, because they don't want you to know that. It looks bad that they, like, put a bunch of people in essential camps while they were in Germany freeing people from camps. Looks bad. It looks bad. And I could go on just talking about things that have happened in America's history that, like, either, especially if you don't live in neighborhoods that have well-funded schools, don't learn about that. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's a very interesting topic to touch on. And, you know, if you have anything that you learned in history that you were like, what? that you never knew, put them in the comments. If you know, have your feelings or your opinions about why this happens, and you know, if it's ever going to change, which, I mean, seeing now all the support behind, you know, the black community and people learning about what Juneteenth is, do you think that this is a catalyst for our history to actually get told? Do you think that this is just, you know, because of the time? Put that in the comments. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to share it to somebody who, you know, would think this is interesting, you know, share the video, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for the news. To my knowledge, the news isn't that bad this week. There was actually 2 really good things that happened this week, so. But also, like, there's also people being found hanging in certain cities, and COVID-19 numbers are going up. So yeah, like I said, emotionally drained. Anyway, I'll see y'all tomorrow with the news. Till then, bye.